I think John Emmett was the first one on today. From Lanzarote out in the Canary Islands, Brian Danamon. Well, nice to see you back, Brian. Stingray up in Seattle. Andrew Pindar, let it grow, let it grow, let it blossom, let it flow. In the sun, in the rain, the snow, sailing is lovely, let it grow. What a nice poem, Andrew Pindar. Andrew Govinlock, Baton Rouge, Paul Homchick, Christopher Gillingham. Greetings from Leamington, home of the late, great Bob Fisher. Pekka Rukashinen. Did I say that right? Sorry, Pekka, if I didn't. Alan Long, Hannah Lee Knoll, Stephen Suchia, Ray Stewart, David Robinson, Don Logan, Andrew Watson, Jody Shields. Hello from his home in Australia. Here we go live with today's show. I can keep reading that list. There's so many people on here already. Jeff Ogle, Peter Edwana down in New Zealand. Gig Trollope. There's a new name, I think. Tony Veal. Gareth Evans, Charlie Pruenka. I'll say that right, Charlie, sooner or later. Alan Long, Charlie Pruenka. We said good afternoon, guys, from snowy Newport, Rhode Island. Hi, Charlie. Again, Alex Hayworth. Thanks, Alex, for the tips you've been sending me. Clark Chapin, Chile, Michigan.
Yes.
John Roberts, Craig Sawers from Auckland, down under, the home of the 36th America's Cup. Maybe not the 37th. I'm going to tell you all about that. We've got the inside scoop on that. Morning from John Greenland, Sergio Mercado, Daniel Grun. Hello, Daniel. Thanks for all of your help. Julia, I trust you are well.
I am.
Hot tips?
Hot tips. Not really. Not today.
Julia, of course, is my co-host, supervising producer, landlady, Commodore here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, where again today we are live from Beach Street Yacht Club Studio B. We actually watched the Super Bowl out in
Studio A.
Studio A, right?
Yeah.
We haven't been out there in a while except to watch the odd TV show. If those of you who used to watch the show, we do it in front of the large screen TV out in what is the salon here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and that was our original studio, but now we're in here in a little bit better setup. Thank you all for joining us for our show number 382. We're soon to be 400. I remember we just passed 200 or 200.
I know.
My goodness. And this, of course, is Tuesday, February 9th. And we've got a busy week ahead, a very busy week ahead. Today, on this show, as you maybe saw on that splash slide at the top, another of our AC36 one-heres has come true. We told you weeks ago, despite what Live Sail Die is now saying, and in fact, what I'll show you this, what is on the front page of the sports section, Ed Gorman writing, in the Times of London, Sir Ben Ainslie and Ineos could have say in future America's Cup. Sir Ben Ainslie's Ineos Team UK could become the next challenger of record in the America's Cup, giving them a much bigger say on how a future event is organized and where it is staged. The COR usually organizes the Challenger Selection Series, this year called the Prada Cup, in which Ainslie's team will compete for the right to take on ETNZ in the America's Cup match in March. Even Grant Dalton, the chief executive, who's helping to run the event management of the present series, confirmed that he is interested in the idea of linking up with the British team in a future defense. So we told you that weeks ago, thanks to all of you who've been sending us tips and confirmation of it. But Live Sail Die ran this yesterday, that great website down in New Zealand. And now you see it in the Times of London and elsewhere. And you'll see more of it as we go forward because, we've been telling you this, that those teams were going to hook up because there's no love lost between Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli and Emirates Team New Zealand here at the end of their cooperation, or what had been initially a collaboration for AC36. Now, we're also today going to reveal the AC37 Venue Bid documents. Another one here, as we told you some weeks ago, we told you we heard that the venue, months ago, was being shopped around by Grant Dalton and Emirates Team New Zealand, notwithstanding that it's the duty of the trustee, Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, to name the next venue if they successfully defend.
Which they have to do.
Well, they have to do, but if they do, presumably they do, you've got to start getting your ducks in a row. That's okay.
Right.
But it looks like there's an awful lot of power that's been given to the team in the name of Grant Dalton to do the venue. And we're going to show you a reveal. We've done a world exclusive of that venue document, which was sent to us this morning, the venue bid document. We're also going to preview the Prada Cup Finals, which start this Saturday in New Zealand, our Friday evening, when we'll start our watch parties again. And we're going to salute with a Bravo Zulu, the IMOCA 2018-2021 Globe Series champ, who is our friend Julia Boris Hermann, whom we've been following.
Oh, yes.
The Hamburg-based German.
Yep.
And the first German, really, to get to the upper echelon of the IMOCA 60 class. So we're very proud of him, and we'll give him a little salute at the end of the show. We'll also tell you the latest on the continuing saga of the the beleaguered 2021 Olympics, and we hope that they do happen, or one way or another. So we'll get into that. Those of you who were with us on Friday, we did a show, a commemoration, a tribute to the fish, to Robert Fisher. And Friday's fish tribute was indeed a huge success. I want to thank everybody who was involved, starting with Peter Montgomery, PJ, who kicked it off with a commemoration, with a memory, with a laugh or two or three, and just the voice of the America's Cup. And he was, as usual, terrific. Also, Sir Ben Ainsley, who turned 44 on Friday. He was on the show as well, live from Auckland, as was Peter Montgomery, reminding us some great times he's had with the fish over the years, at particularly at Olympic regattas, but also at America's Cup regattas. The esteemed yacht designer Ron Holland, who's a Kiwi, Irish Kiwi, I don't know, but he lives in Vancouver now. And our good friend, he's been here on the show any number of times. And I almost played, this video was so good, Julie, I almost played the Tracy Edwards video again. She couldn't be on live with us because she was traveling. But she sent in a video that we ran on the show, and it was marvelous. I commend it to you. Go have a look at the Tracy Edwards video. She, of course, of maiden fame in the Whitbread Round the World race, when Bob said, oh, this all-women's team that Tracy's put together, they're nothing but, you want to say it?
A tin of tarts.
A tin full of tarts,
Yes.
because of course it's an aluminum boat,
Aluminum
boat and steel boat. A tin full of tarts. And then when she won, she and Don Riley and co won a leg of the race, he had to eat his words and say, "Well, they're a fast, remarkably fast, well sailed tin full of tarts." And she and Bob have been terrific friends all along,
and of help to each other. Really.
Exactly, and she made that point. Well, thank you, Julie, for reminding me. She said that in her video, and again, I commend that whole show to you. It was a 3-hour show, thanks in part to these guys, Dan Nerney, Daniel Forster, Fish, of course, and Guy Gurney, who were the Four Musketeers, and then there were others, but these three, along with Bob, took the other three took a lot of photos, did some writing as well, and Fish, they were the heart and soul of our sport. And this show, by the way, was more by way of a oral and visual history of the sport for the last 60 years, since approx 1960 through, well, right now. Great stuff. Thanks again to Dan and Guy. Also to this gentleman who wrapped it all up for us. I mean, certain Robin Knox Johnson was on, and I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
Andrew
I do watch
Pindar,
it. Yeah.
Andrew McIrvin,
Right.
Barry Dunning, who was one of Bob's very best friends. It was just, and I'm leaving people out, but it was terrific, and especially the close by Harold Cudmore, who's known Bob and his wife Dee and his two daughters since forever, the last 50 years. And Harold wrapped it up for us, and as I said, did a terrific job. But it was all put together. That epic show was put together by our longtime friends, Jane Eagleson and Barry Pickthall. The two of them really grabbed everybody, made it happen. We just provided the technical platform as much as anything. And then, of course, I hosted it, emceed it. But Barry and Jane did the heavy lifting. Thanks to them very much. I ran this at the end of that show, and it reminds me again so much of Fish, but it's probably a reminder for all of us going forward. We only live once, Snoopy. And Bob would have corrected Peanut. He would have said, wrong. We only die once. We live every day.
Really nice.
So may he rest in peace. He died at age 85 last week, and a huge contributor to the sport. And that show is available. It's already had something closing in on what, Julia, 10,000 views?
Yes.
And it's not our largest show, but it's Clark Chapin tells us it ranks number 7 in our all-time 300 and almost 400 shows now.
And it is an evergreen because it's such a history. It's going to be up for a while, and it's going to be watched for a while. So.
Well, exactly. We'll probably all be long gone, and people will still be watching the show. By the way, I also posted it to YouTube, to our Sailing Illustrated TV channel, YouTube channel. If you want to go watch it there, for some reason you struggle to find it on TFE Live on our Facebook page. Just one other note while we're talking about memorable folks who passed. You know who that is in the center, of course. Our former Secretary of State. He was also Secretary of the Treasury and first head of the Office of Management and Budget in various presidential administrations. This is a photo from 1985. Julia's putting her glasses on to see who it is. That's former Secretary of State George P. Shultz, who passed away over the weekend. And Secretary Shultz was a tower of reason and power. Julia liked him because he was a stalwart at Stanford. His wife there in the middle, Charlotte Shultz, there with Halsey Harrisoff, that's a photo from 2010 as we brought the cup back after winning it and brought it back here to City Hall in big celebrations. And the two of them adopted the cup, adopted that whole defense, and were very, very strong supporters of that effort, and in some ways adopted me.
Yes, I love that picture.
As a carpetbagger coming in from outside, and that's in 2013, the opening ceremony. They insisted on coming. Tom, can we sit with you? Well, of course. And we sat in the front row, and the two of them helped raise money, helped support the team, and were terrific supporters of the America's Cup. George P. Shultz, who passed away over the past weekend at age 100.
Yes.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, she said he wanted to live to age 100 and he wanted to die at home, and he got both of them.
He did. Terrific. Okay. Julia, your witness.
Yes. Always take the opportunity to like, follow, and share. If you follow, you'll get notice of every time we go up.
And, of course, comments are welcome. That show last Friday had almost 1,000 comments as well, 900 comments. I'm sure there'll be more before it's done. And your comments in replay. Most people watch the show in replay. We'll go off the air with 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 views. And your commenting during the show, of course, is welcome. But we leave them open because our FOSI, our Friends of Sailing Illustrated, our viewers, are so respectful, are so cool. We don't ever worry about people putting croutonic name calling.
Right. And they live in all time zones.
Well, exactly. So your comments in replay, welcome. If you want to support us, become a patron via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We have a number of you who give us a few bucks a month, and it helps keep the lights on. My landlady paid the small amount. She hardly charges a thing. It's unbelievable. She's so great. Aren't you, Julia?
Oh, yes, I'm wonderful.
Is that a scarf? All your fans will be happy. Oh, an America's Cup scarf?
Yes, I did a dive in my scarf drawer today, and all of a sudden I found about 5 America's Cup scarves. This is from America's Cup '92.
Someday I'll tell you about designing that logo. That's the cup down in San Diego, of which I was the general manager. Julia, with your permission, I thought this Friday, since we're doing a watch party Friday night, I was thinking about not doing a regular show Friday, but I think one hears.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of news. So I think we'll do a regular brief TFE Live Friday at 1300 at our normal time, because I think we're going to have some news above and beyond what's going on with the watch party, with the racing, which starts our Friday night, which is Saturday, of course, in New Zealand. That watch party will start here 15 minutes before nominal race time. Race time is in New Zealand at 1600, 4 p.m., which is 1900 here, 7 p.m. here the night before. And we go live 15 minutes before that so we can have a bit of a pregame show and bring you all up to speed. That airtime for the watch party is 0245 UTC, is that right? I think that's right. Yeah, that's London time. It's 0345 on the continent and so on. We hope you can join us for both those shows on Friday. And then we'll keep doing the watch parties until Julia and I fall apart.
Yeah.
And assuming we don't fall apart, we'll do the watch parties every day that there is racing. And there is scheduled racing now every day from New Zealand's Saturday until one team wins 2 races.
7.
2 races a day until one team, wins 7 races. It's best of 13. So there will for sure be racing on New Zealand's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, assuming there's 2 races all those days, and then probably beyond that because the weather forecast this weekend is not auspicious.
Oh, it's not?
Now, there's a big high-pressure center coming in. Daniel Gruen sent me a slide just before we went to air.
Oh, because it looked okay before.
It's going to be light, at least on Saturday. Racing continues every day until one team has won 7, 2 races per day. Thank you, Julia, for catching that Crutonicism on my part. Let's get right into the Cup. Unless there's some pressing comments here, I think you need to do a brief show, just the 2 hours. John Emmett's making fun of me.
Oh.
Yeah, Hamchick is saying as well on that Friday show, TFE and scores of AC royalty. Yeah, it was, as Hamish Ross said, there were more more sailing royalty than there were real royalty gathered at the 1901 funeral of Queen Victoria. Yeah. That was pretty good.
Nice comment, yeah.
Who else, Julia's on here? Neil Kenefick. Very cool scarf, Stingray Lecture scarf.
Oh, does he? Good.
3 a.m. GMT. Yeah, we'll go live 15 minutes before your 3 a.m. La Paz. Mark Thompson is down in Mexico. Jorge Lamarca Sindru is watching. Thank you. And will there be alcohol? Well, I don't know if we have as much alcohol as we did on Friday's show. Toasting fish.
Yeah.
I don't know, Julia, how you were after the show.
Actually, we didn't drink that much. We had a half a bottle.
We sipped.
Yeah.
Some people were complaining that we caused them to be dusty.
Well, that's not our problem.
Exactly. Fish is well worth it. And as Tracy Edwards said in her video, some of the worst hangovers she ever had, maybe the worst hangovers, were as a result of celebrating somewhere in the world with Bob Fisher. Okay, let's get to the Cup. As you all know, the 36th defense of the oldest trophy in international sports starts on Saturday, New Zealand time, March 6th. To win the Cup, if you're a challenger, first you have to win the Prada Cup, the CSS Challenger Selection Series. We're now in the final stages of that, starting this Saturday, New Zealand, Friday night, our time, with our watch party. And to get you in the mood, I thought we should look at a video. Enjoy. Whoops. Now enjoy.
We'll be doing everything we can to come out and get some payback on the Poms.
In terms of the racing that we will have with Luna Rossa, it's lining up for a pretty intense weekend.
Got a pace. High mode is good. High mode is good. Yep. Straight in if we're across. Starboard. Protest. Up hard. Is he in danger on the left? Hey, protest. Hey. Big one here, boys. Push, boys. There we go.
It's just ourselves and Luna Rossa fighting it out for that Prada Cup.
Okay, a bit of a heart starter there. And of course, the finals of the Prada Cup starting, as we've said now a number of times, this coming Saturday, New Zealand time, watch party here just before 7 p.m. our time, just before 10 p.m. on the East Coast on Friday night. Pitting, speaking of pitting, the Pit Bull, Jimmy Spithill and Francesco Bruni, sailing for LRPP, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, in the finals of the Prada Cup against the Brits, Giles Scott, Olympic gold medalist, and Sir Ben Ainslie, multiple Olympic medalist, 4 golds and a silver at the back end of ITUK Ineos Team UK. Now, there's been a few videos out this week. There's right now they're just fighting back and forth over rules. I'm not even going to go into all that because I think it's all basically a bunch of
Fencing.
yeah, it's a bit of fencing. That's fair, but I think it's verbal fencing and some written fencing. But it's basically posturing and positioning,
Yeah.
and I think they're all tempests in a proverbial teapot. Now, when was that from? That's an American expression,
Yeah.
right? Do other cultures use that?
I don't know.
Tempest
Actually, I thought that was British.
no, tempest in a teapot from the Teapot Dome scandal here in the U.S. back in the early part of the last century.
Right.
Who cares? Here's another video. The Brits have been pumping the videos out. Nothing from LRPP. Nothing really from America's Cup 36 other than the one I just showed you. The others were frankly a little lame, but I thought that first one was good. Here's a really good one. There's, in fact, 2 good ones coming here now from the Brits. Enjoy.
We're going to go out and do a bit of refresher training for the sailors. The idea of this being we're going to take their heart rate up and try and simulate the heart rate under racing. And then one of the tests will be to see how long they can remain underwater, breathing harder than they would normally. We're going to have a little swimming race. We're going to set a buoy out away from the chase boat. They'll dive in, swim around the buoy, back to the boat, climb themselves back on board chase 4, don their equipment, their PFDs and their air supply, and then they'll jump back in the water and there'll be a little underwater scenario for them. They're going to swim underneath a piece of equipment called the crash blanket, but that's going to simulate swimming under a sail, which is something that is highly likely could happen if they capsize. It's been a few months since we've done it, and if you've not had your hands on the kit and the first time you come to use it, then the chances are it's going to increase the panic. We're happy with the way today's training's gone, as it's a continuation of what we've done in all previous training, including the helicopter dunker drill. I feel confident and the lads feel confident heading into racing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with John Emmett. We need to get Chris Brittle on the TV. He's terrific, and full marks to the Brits. I'm sure the Italians are doing the same thing, probably just not making video out of them. But they keep pumping, as I said, ITUK keeps pumping these videos out, and they've been featuring various team members and are really, really good. Here's one of those.
Hi, I'm Will Bakewell, and I'm Control Systems Engineer at Ineos Team UK. I joined about 18 months before AC35. I wanted to move out of the automotive world and I wanted to move into a sporting context. The America's Cup seemed like, from an engineering point of view and a sort of sporting engineering point of view, it represented something where I could have an impact on a sort of personal level. I'm responsible for the control strategies that are used to fly the boat. You have to treat it as a cohesive whole when you're looking at the control. So it's really the control strategies that combine all the different aspects of all the different control surfaces to give the best possible flight. We need to consider how we distribute computing resource and that sort of thing around the boat and how that interplays with our control strategies.
Coming on. Nice work, blokes.
From the sails, which obviously produce forces that are integral to the flight control, like we have to take account of them. But sort of below the water, what actually lifts the boat up are the wings that are on the end of the foil arms, and they have 2 independent flaps on the sort of symmetrically on the inner and outer bits of those foil wings that we can use to adjust the lift, and then we can actually adjust the rudder as a whole backwards and forwards to try and change the pitching forces on the boat. Whenever we go sailing, I'll be on chase 4. I sit at the back of chase 4 with my laptop, with a direct stream of data from the boat, which enables me to monitor everything. I think winning the cup would just be this culmination of so many people's hard work, different specialities coming together as one team to be able to do something to create this really cool, very fast boat that hopefully beats everyone else. It would be absolutely amazing. So winning it would just be the ultimate.
Winning it would be the ultimate. A lot of comments here from the Brit fanboys. Daniel Groon, Jonathan Frank, only Patriot. Yeah, it was the one who got thrown over. John Emmett, I remember before the 2000 games, Brittle was training with Percy in the Finn, and I was training with Shirley in the Europe, meaning Shirley Robertson, at Hailing Island. We shared a caravan together on the island and used to go to the Tesco's in Havant and buy a hot and ready-to-eat whole-cooked chicken each for dinner most days. Video of TIUK practice this week looking very good. But, yeah, they are looking good, Bill Parker's saying. Bill, who's from Cincinnati from memory. Stingray, these guys even upgrade software from off the chase. Yeah, they're all doing that. I think you'll see that. Mark Orton Reed, I see Prada bringing in a yacht club in name only to have complete control of the process, a la CNAV, Club Náutico Español de Vela. Well, I think all the teams have virtual control over their yacht clubs, as we did over Golden Gate. That doesn't make it right. I mean, I don't think that you saw American Magic didn't have control over New York Yacht Club.
No, and I think we talked about it before. That's because of the financial demands on the membership. So that's done as a subsidy.
Yeah, subsidiary.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair, and that's correct. By the way, tempest in a teapot,
Yes.
it is a British expression predating our own here in this country. You always learn something here on TFE Live, even if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Tempest in a teapot, American English, or storm in a teacup.
Aha.
British English is an idiom meaning a small event that has been exaggerated out of proportion. There are also lesser known or earlier variants. My God, variants sounds like COVID. Such as tempest in a teacup.
I like that. Yeah.
Storm in a cream bowl. We may have to adopt some of these. Tempest in a glass of water, storm in a wash hand basin, and storm in a glass of water. It goes back to Cicero in the 1st century BC, used a similar phrase in Latin. Okay, now we are going too far afield. I think
more formidable in a boiling saucepan.
Well. We have another video. This just kind of a sum up to give you you have to give New Zealand, the country of the government, full marks, and Grant Dalton and the whole ACE, everybody, Ms. Simons and everybody else who's involved in that, full marks. And it looks like they have a great village. Looks like people are having a lot of fun. And of course, they don't have COVID, as my mother and others have remarked, but none of them have masks on. What's the deal? Well, they have a couple more cases of community transfer, community spread, apparently, in the last few days. Several of you sent me notes, but
it's under controlled.
Yeah, they're in their quarantine facilities, and they figured out that hotel where apparently there was some transfer. But have a look at yet another video, which I think you'll enjoy. Okay, I hope that gets you in the mood. Now, Jack Griffin has said no racing schedule Monday the 15th or Tuesday the 16th. You know, Jack, on NBC's schedule, they say it's going every day. On several other websites I've gone and looked at it, they say it's going every day. Some of you have said, no, there's no racing Monday and Tuesday. Let's get to the bottom of it right now, because this is scrutonicism. And I've asked Bruno, if you go look at the NBC Sports website, and I wouldn't take them as the most authoritative, But let's go look here. Here is okay, now it's changed. Hooray. They're now saying 12, 13, 16. Okay, so this is different. Hooray. And they've caught up with it because we've seen it different. Thank you, Jack Griffin. We've seen it differently in different places. So here is the schedule now. It doesn't continue every day. It is Saturday, Sunday, the 11th, and Tuesday is, it's now Wednesday down there, the 10th. 11th, well, yeah, okay, day 11. So on the 12th, which is here in the U.S., 12th is Friday. The 13th is Saturday here in the U.S., right? And then the 16th is Wednesday, is Tuesday here in the U.S. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, okay. And then it continues every day. So they're not racing. Thank you, Jack. They are not racing on Monday and Tuesday. They're racing Saturday, Sunday in New Zealand, then on Wednesday in New Zealand, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And that's the whole scheduled series. And then they have reserve days after that. Do I have that right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Jack, for bringing us up to date, because there's Daniel Groon has pulled the schedule up in the comments. And tell me if I now have that right or don't, and we will go have another look at it. But it's been eminently, part of the confusion is the days back and forth, but that wasn't it. They said it was going to every day, and I looked on the website, looked on NBC, but they now have reconciled it and obviously called racing off, Julia, on Monday, Tuesday. So that's great for us. So we'll do a watch party Friday night and Saturday night. We'll have Sunday off, probably do a Tuesday show then.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I am going to do I think, if you agree, we'll do a Friday show, because I think there is going to be breaking news between now and then. In fact, I know there's going to be one.
One hears.
One hears. We haven't been wrong on a one hears yet. We may have had a shade of gray.
Yeah.
Not 100%. But now, speaking of the weather, this is thanks to Daniel Groon, who sent this to me just before we went to air. It's Saturday the 13th in New Zealand. This is predict winds forecast at GMT plus 13, which is 4 in the afternoon down there. They're predicting 4 knots out there on course Charlie, which is the nominal area now. Charlie and kind of Delta, Charlie a little bit to the south and east. And I haven't looked at it, but it looks like it's going to be equally touch, not quite as light on Sunday. Somebody have it. Well, I can go have a look at it. 2 hours sitting here if you want. I guess we should just go have a look, shouldn't we?
Sure.
Here we go. Look at Auckland. Okay, so I'll bring this up now. And Auckland, down there at the bottom, on Saturday, they're talking a little bit. This is on windy.com, so it's not quite the same using the European model. But on Saturday, they're talking about 8 knots at 4 p.m. Lighter before that, but 8 at 4 p.m., which is one of the reasons why they're running it later in the afternoon, because the sea breeze does tend to assert. Or if they're fighting the 2 coastal sea breezes, then they do. Sunday at 4 p.m. is 9, gusting 18. So Daniel Groon and others who've been sending me horror stories, this slide about it being so light on Saturday, I'm not so sure that now is true based on what I'm seeing, at least on windy.com. Some of you like predict wind better. Some of you like weather.com, frankly. It's not bad either. And yes, weather will play, I think, a huge factor. My information continues to be that if it's light, that favors, or lightish, that favors Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. And if there is breeze, that, if it's uprange, it favors Ineos Team UK. Now, both of them have done a lot to their boats.
Yeah.
I think both boats, they had to configure and declare on Monday. It's Wednesday morning down there now, and they had to declare. So the day before yesterday, in effect. Now, why did they have to measure and declare so early, you will ask. And it's because they're replicating, we've told you before, they're replicating the match. When the match starts on the 6th of March, a week before, the Monday before that, they have to declare and measure, and that's their configuration for the series. Why? Because it was so bloody expensive and difficult in Bermuda to change foils every night depending upon the forecast for the next day, and it was just a huge harangue. So one of the things we are fairly good at in the America's Cup is learning from the past and minimizing harangue for the teams and expense and so on. Now, it wouldn't have happened if ETNZ didn't think that they could come up with an AP. We call it an AP, meaning all-purpose configuration, better than the other teams. If they thought they needed the ability to change configuration day to day or every so often within a series, ETNZ would have never agreed to that protocol schedule, that rule with the Italians. So that's why, and the challengers, I think wisely, are replicating the match. Same number of races, same number of, we got to win 7 for best of 13, same declaration, probably the same press conference 2 days before and so on. Okay, so let's see what everybody says here now on all of that. Julia.
Daniel Grun said windy TV is not accurate, Tom. Predict Wind is the official weather supplier for AC37.
Daniel, okay, but I have been using both since forever, and I have found windy to be quite accurate over the long haul, and certainly during this last go-around. I've been using windy for the pre-Christmas regatta, for the racing, and remember, we called it. We called it that day that it was going to be really, really light, and we said, I don't think this is going to be raceable. Ian Murray seems to think they're going to get out there and do that. What cup do you have, Julia? You don't have your Pindar cup today. You've got your...
No, you have my Pindar cup.
Well, I thought we should give Andrew... Turn your logo around so you can see it.
I'm keeping calm.
You're keeping calm. Keeping calm and hiking harder on your OK Dinghy.
I know.
I'd pay good money to see you hiking hard on an OK Dinghy.
So would I. I know.
But me too. So I look at, guys, we'll see. The short teams are probably happy, John Emmett is saying, about this configuration rule. Thanks, Yarvahe. Venetia Jackman is watching with you, John Mangino. So we'll see. I mean, let's see how your forecast changes. Daniel Grun, the predict wind. And there are several others. And remember, they're all, for the most part, using the same data input, for either the European or the American or one or two of the other systems. And it's hard to predict in New Zealand because it's an island out in the middle of the ocean. And if a butterfly flaps its wing, okay, it's not quite that chaos theory. But we shall see. It is going to be lightish, regardless. I think we will all agree it's going to be lightish on Saturday. And it could easily be that 5 to 12 at 1 o'clock. It could easily be 5 to 12 at 4 o'clock, or vice versa. So we'll see. Any other comments on the weather? You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, right? You remember that? Who said that? Famous song, famous rock poet.
I don't know. I don't remember. Blowing in the Wind.
Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob. I was going to say, it sounds like something Bob Dylan would say.
Andrew Pindar. Of course, that's the first choice for most of us anyway, Jody Shields. I'm assuming you've got a bar karate. Jonathan Frank says he likes windy.tv for sailing around our area. As I said, they're all good. Thank you, Jack Griffin, again for helping us set the record straight. Small islands which heat up quickly are a nightmare for meteorologists.
That's got to be true.
So says John Emmett. Atkins got it. Dylan, he knew right away that you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. But do you know what happened, speaking of cultural icons, do you know what happened on this day in history?
No.
In the 9th, not the 10th, it's the 10th down under. What happened on this day in history in 1964, February 9th? Somebody on here's got to know that without me giving you any clues.
64.
64. It was just after JFK was assassinated in late 63, by the way.
Is that when the Beatles came to town?
Well done, Julia. That's exactly what happened. They showed up 2 days before at the airport, at JFK Airport, which had just been renamed, I guess. You remember what JFK Airport was before it was renamed JFK?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Oh.
Idlewild?
Was it Idlewild? Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember. I'm too young. I do remember the Beatles showing up. And what happened that night, February 9th? Yep, Stingrays got it, the Beatles. Wingrove has it. The Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
And I can't, the people went nuts. I didn't realize it. They played their manager, who was the guy, Epstein,
Brian,
not Brian, whatever the guy's name was, who was their manager, was really smart. Ed Sullivan apparently was passing through Heathrow and saw a madness there. And the Beatles were just coming back from, he had never heard of them, coming back from Stockholm from a concert there. Saw all these thousands of kids out there making a noise and a madness. And he said, "Who's that? What's going on?" And he was told about the Beatles, and he told his people to go book them immediately, which they did. And the deal was that they would appear on the 9th of Feb. But the manager, brilliant guy that apparently he is or was, I don't know if he's still around, he said, "Well, how about if we book several shows?" So in this first show on the 9th, they actually appeared at the maybe at the top of the show, or maybe not quite at the top of the show. They also then played a couple songs at the end of the show. Then they also that same day taped a segment for a future show, and then they came back 2 or 3 times in the meantime. And by then they were cemented in the national, not international. They were a big deal in Germany and in the UK already, and a good bit of Europe. So yes, that was on this day in history. The Beatles appeared with the late great Ed Sullivan, and it was in February of '64 that the Beatles' popularity in the U.S. was reaching fever pitch as they prepared to make their live American TV debut on the Ed Sullivan Show. Beatlemania had already gripped the UK in the previous year when the Fab Four arrived at JFK Airport, newly named. Oh, it was really newly renamed. After his assassination only 11 weeks earlier, they were greeted by a roaring crowd of around 4,000 fans and 200 journalists.
Wow.
Paul McCartney later recalled being in the car on the way to the hotel and listening on the radio to a news program narrating their car's journey.
Wow, that's got to be
out
big
there
time for them.
from
Yeah.
Long Island into town. And Walter Cronkite could not get, everybody was trying to get tickets to this for their, and Walter Cronkite was the doyen of CBS. He couldn't even get tickets, nor could other, apparently, VIPs, so they say. On February 9th, the Beatles performed for the first time on Sullivan. Around 73 million viewers watched their performance, which at the time was the most watched program in American television history. It's since been eclipsed by things like the Super Bowl. From there, the Beatles' domination of the music market began, and the rest, as they say, is history. On this day in history, 9th of February, 1964, Julia, it only seems
Like yesterday.
like yesterday. Love was such an easy game to play. Someday
Yes.
we'll break the guitar out or the banjo or
Yeah.
something, and you will all immediately leave
I know.
in droves. Why are we so relaxed today? I think it's because Friday's show was stressful to have all those.
I'm relaxed because I think today is Friday.
We had all those elegant, royal, erudite.
Yes.
I mean, terrific. What a group that was.
Oh, they were each one of them. And you wanted to talk to each one of them for a long time. Yeah.
And you know what? They were all very respectful of the whole situation. None of them gas
Yes.
bagged on and
Yeah.
carried on and interrupted each other politely when they had an addition to the story, and
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Clark Chapin, if you want to go, you guys are still arguing about your favorite wind thing. If you want to go to windy.com and click on the different models, yes, you'll see the ECMWF forecast is the highest of any of them. The rest are 3 to 5 knots. Okay, so here's what Clark is saying. You see, I was talking about the various models. That's a European model. And let's go there and click on that. That model shows 5 to 7 knots at 4 p.m. on Saturday, and lightish on Sunday, 9 to 12. Looks raceable on Sunday. I don't know who else you want to look at, but Clark is right. There are the different models, and they don't all always agree. In fact, usually there is some difference. What else? Eric Clapton. Jonathan Frank. Where did Eric Clapton come from? Friday's show was outstanding. Yes, thanks again to all those people. 30-plus yachting, not just notables. That was yachting royalty, yacht racing royalty. Terrific stuff.
Stingray's favorite rock song of all time was "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." I forgot about that.
Wow, my guitar. Okay. April English, speaking of the English and the Brits and the Beatles. Okay, they're now and you know Stingray. I don't know if you know this, Joe. Stingray's quite a guitar player. He's got a collection. He plays or so he tells me. I've never heard him play, but maybe we'll get him on the show as a guest appearance, and then he can out himself, since he never wants to say what his real name is because he's afraid his employer
I know.
is going
They
to
look dimly on it.
What are you doing on that Crutonic show with an old lady and old man down in San Francisco?
I know.
Okay, this we didn't do this segment on Friday's show because it didn't seem appropriate. Our Jody Shields commemorative baby shark. Is it correct or is it Crutonic? And we've only had one slide or two or three when we've done one of these correct or Crutonic. Today we've got about 30 slides.
Really?
Because they all relate to what I told you at the top of the show, in which I promoted the show. We were sent early this morning the bid document for AC37. If you want your host city or country, your city or country to become the host of the next cup, the AC37th America's Cup, you have to get this document. You have to fulfill as best you can the requirements. And they're hoping, bottom line, they're hoping if they win, that is ETNZ successfully defends, they're hoping to name a new venue after putting it out to bid now. They're hoping to name a new venue by August, which I tell you what.
That'd be great.
That'll be record time.
Yeah.
Now, the document itself is very professional. It's really, really good. I'm impressed. A lot of work has gone into this. This is not something where let's put the venue out to bid. They've been thinking about this for a long time. And those of you watching in New Zealand who are aghast, when we told you, and I was on all the radio and television shows down there, say, yes, I'm telling you, they're putting it out to bid. Then finally the New Zealand Herald ran that article last Sunday, a week ago yesterday, I think it was. What is today? Tuesday. A week ago this past weekend. And we told you this was coming, that Mr. Dalton and co. are putting the venue out to bid. Well, here is the guide, and I think this is a world exclusive. I don't think anyone else has put this out in public yet, and if they have, great. But the venue selection process, hosting guide, introduction, ETNZ, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's multiple pages, but as current defender, as Team New Zealand, not the yacht club. Remember, it's the yacht club that is the defender trustee, not the team.
Yeah.
This is pretty aggressive. ETNZ, as current defender and rights holder of the America's Cup, are pleased to be able to offer a venue city the opportunity to bid to become the host venue city for the 37th edition of this spectacular and pioneering event. The successful team are about to host the 36th edition on home waters in Auckland, New Zealand. Planning to win and defend the trophy, they are looking now to secure the interest of host city venues to host the 37th edition of the Cup, scheduled to take place in 2023 or 2024. That's also aggressive, soon. And again, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is the introductory page, and it lays it all out. Purpose. So go ahead.
Now, it doesn't deny the fact that New Zealand could host the next
Correct. No, that's exactly right. And, it's I would argue they're just putting pressure on New Zealand to come to the fore with their own bid.
Yeah.
Purpose of this AC37 venue selection process hosting guide, there's a mouthful, is to provide detailed information to interested venues around all aspects needed to deliver a world-class 37th America's Cup event. An event of this profile and importance deserves an impeccable process in order to determine which country and which venue or city hosts it. Interested parties should use this document to plan their bid proposal in order to demonstrate the suitability of their venue city for this event. A checklist covering the required contents for all bid proposals can be found on pages 41 and 42. And again, I'm not going to take you through this whole thing. I will take you through it, but we're not going to read it. Here is the hosting guide, the contents. And I'm not sure where I'm going to post this or if I'm going to post this. We'll see. But it's obviously been sent around with a confidentiality agreement. It was sent to me without any such confidentiality agreement, and one of our best sources. And here it is, introduction to the host venue opportunity. That looks like where? That is Plymouth. That's the home of NEO's Team UK's, where they hosted a couple of the America's Cup World Series, or they were hoping to host one this year. This is the introduction. Now I'm going to go to the strategic vision because this lays the whole thing out. Strategic vision milestones for AC37 to host the most successful AC event ever seen in 23 or 24. And we'll see you later on. They're talking about 2023, 2 years' time. August of 2023 if it's in the northern hemisphere, 2024 if it's down under.
That is
That's quick. That's
Yeah.
aggressive. This is their vision, their milestone, to secure a host city venue partner that's willing to invest in the event, yada, yada, to increase the number of competing teams from 4 to 5 in 2021, well, there are 4, to 6 to 8 teams by 2023. To keep the same race boat design rule in place, meaning that new teams can purchase boats from existing teams and fast-track entry into the event, which is important. One of the problems with changing the boat every time is that newbie teams, wannabe teams, can't come in, buy a boat, kick, and then use that boat to get, as used to happen in the 12-meter days and the IACC days. To secure, now we're down here to point 1, 2, 3, is that point 6? To secure even more TV digital broadcast partners, both free-to-air and pay-to-view options, to cover the event, okay. AC36 secured 452 million global viewers.
That's great.
Well, that's not happened yet. That's what they're projecting, obviously. To work in partnership with a host venue that ensures that they benefit from the wide range of hosting rights. Okay. To deliver a 30-month, second to last paragraph, to deliver a 30-month activation program to the host venue city, from early announcement to preparation to build up events to competing teams, relocation, and culminating in an 8-week race program over 3 events.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does indeed. And you will also see in here that there is no contemplation for a traveling circus. The only America's Cup World Series event that's being contemplated is like the Christmas Cup, like the racing just before Christmas. One such series at the venue and not other races around. Finally, to solidify the America's Cup place alongside other world-leading sporting events, yada, yada. Okay, the bid process selection. Again, I'm not going to bore you with all this, just the key points. You can read through it, and I will. I studied it this morning when it was sent to me at dark 30, and I spent a fair bit of time reading through it. But it's very well presented. It's very well put together. In fact, the company that put it together is a British company. We'll tell you about at the end. And the chairman of that British company was also chairman of the 2012 Olympic Bid Committee for London. So he knows what he's doing. Okay, the timeline and scheduling for AC37. 2021, final day is March 21st, give or take. By the end of August, the announcement of the AC37 program and host venue in the gray box. In the red box, remainder of 2021, teams entry period open, and teams commence design, preparation, training, yada, yada. Throughout 2022, teams in full training, boat design and testing. Some teams relocate to host venue to train in 2022. That's next year. Host venue in full preparation mode, infrastructure development underway. I told you it was aggressive.
Yes. Well, there's no reason it shouldn't be.
Well, except it takes time and money, and I tell you
what.
what.
The more time, the more money.
Yeah, but putting a bid, I put these bids together. I've been involved in people, and I tell you what, to try to convince the governments and the corporate sponsors and everybody,
right.
especially in this day in a pandemic. Let's see. Okay, so now here is the other part of that. I'll go back. There was the first part, and I've just slid it over here now. 2023, 2 years from now, all competing teams based at the race venue, final training period. July, that's January to June. July, August is the racing at the venue in 2023. AC World Series event. All teams compete in a 4-day build-up event. In August, September, the Challenger Selection Series event, currently known as the Prada Cup, previously known as LVC. Challenger teams match race in an elimination series over a 5-week period. Okay, no surprise, with one team emerging as the winner and earning the right to race the defender in the match. September of 2023, America's Cup match, the final match race between the defender and challenger, best of 9, same format we have now, over a maximum 10-day period. So it's also compressed. Okay, what else? It goes on here. And this is a detail I thought was interesting. There is a very clear governance system for the America's Cup event and a few important stakeholders for host venues to understand. Defender and rights holder is Emirates Team New Zealand. No mention of the yacht club. Defending yacht club. All America's Cup teams have an associated yacht club, not the trustee defender, an associated yacht club, and the RNZ is the current defending yacht club of the America's Cup. The yacht club normally takes on a number of key roles in the delivery of the AC events. In AC36, RNZ, Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, are organizing the Youth America's Cup event by way of example. This has been in progress for a long time. I'm sure before that event was called off even. So I won't read the rest. It's anticipated that RNZ will form a partnership with a local yacht club at the AC37 host venue. ACE, which is the current America's Cup organizing committee, to deliver the details of the event, and then the host venue organizing committee. Of course, you always have one of those as well, as we did here in San Francisco, as we did in San Diego, and it's all local yokels. Okay, what else? Commercial and financial considerations. Now, this is interesting. No numbers are bandied about wisely. So the financial contribution is in three parts. The rights fee to become the AC37 host venue. Talk about that in a sec. 2, the commitment to cover the operating costs of the event. And 3, the provision of the required infrastructure, facilities, and services. No surprise. If you look below, the AC37 hosting rights fee, in bold, the rights sanction fee is required to be paid by the host venue city to ETNZ to acquire the rights to become the official host venue. The host venue should propose a rights fee in their proposal, and this should form part of their host venue presentation document. The level of this rights fee should reflect the commercial potential and economic impact of the America's Cup to a host venue. Now, I understand there's also an application fee, which is not small, but that I didn't find that in here. Maybe it is. So then it goes on. Host venue rights and benefits, host venue requirements. It's the usual stuff. They talk about depth of water. They talk about boats. They talk about volunteers. Now, note that's actually the picture here from San Francisco. Crissy Field there to the lower left. Marina Green, which is where the village was until, at least in the early part of the regatta. The aquatic park, which was, really wasn't much of anything for the Cup. And then Pier 2729, which was the AC Village here in the 34th America's Cup in 2011, 12, 13. And the boats, the provision of onshore technical team bases and operating facilities, team bases. That's a picture from Valencia there on the top. That is, the Prada technical base, they call it. And then the bottom picture there is from one of the America's Cup World Series events in the lead up to Bermuda. Nice, I think.
It's a nice picture.
Carlo Borlenghi or Daniel Forster picture. I can't remember who took that. More technical requirements. This is the team base that's got to be provided for ETNZ, let alone the other teams. And it's a big enchilada, as you can imagine. That is the Bermuda, the event race village and associated facilities in Bermuda. I mean, this is very well done, very thorough and extensive.
And it's also very good because most people say, oh, yeah, we'll have a little boat race that can come over and use our facilities.
Right.
I don't think so.
So it as I said, a lot of thought's gone into this. A lot of research has gone into it. And the submission details, again, I'm not going to go into it's the usual stuff. I mean, and Ernesto Bertorelli was the first one who did this when he put the venue out to bid for the AC32 for the 2007 Cup. And you remember that. He put it out to bid in fully 60 cities in Europe. He said, well, we want to do it in Europe. Fully 60 cities in Europe bid for it.
Did they?
Right? Yeah, and it came down between Lisbon and Valencia. And we were all at the hotel in Geneva the morning they announced the choice. And Patrick DeBarros, our good friend who's been on the show, who was the dean, is the dean of yachting in Portugal, and he thought he was for sure assured he'd won it for Portugal, and he found out it had gone to Valencia. He was livid. He was not amused,
No.
and hasn't talked to Ernesto since. But this bidding stuff's a hard game. So that's the details. And then again, I'm not going to zoom in on all of it, but this is the schedule. This is if you are going to bid, this is how quickly they hope to turn this around. During March of 2021, a heads of agreement will be raised, will be drafted, with discussion of all details around the event planning. And of course, the match. So that's before the match, and you have to do some of this before the match, no doubt. Draft a protocol, find a challenger of record, which sounds like they've already done, as we've been telling you, and now you saw in the Times of London, and you saw in the Live, Sail, Die article yesterday. In March of 2021, they're going to invite the shortlisted venues to attend the AC match during the race dates there, starting on the 6th of March. And immediately thereafter, March, April, and May of 2021, they will finish. A winner will be declared out as the match, and then final full contract negotiations will take place with a selected host venue for AC37.
It's a really good idea to have the host for the next year see and be involved in the middle of the.
And they always are.
Are they?
Yeah, they're always there. They're kicking the tires, and if they're really interested, they've generally been there. That's my experience.
Okay.
And interested in other teams too.
Yeah. And
then of course you've got the June to August, the new venue final negotiations contract signing and announcement in August of the 37th AC37 venue. That is on a very aggressive, but they're down the road. I mean, this document, just producing this document, obviously took months. As I said, a lot of research, a lot of work has gone into this, and that's not the end of it.
Yeah.
But this is. Now, you see who produced the document? Project Coordination Key Contact is our longtime friend Leslie Ryan, who's been with several America's Cup teams, and she was one of Bruno's assistants, stalwarts back in the day. Leslie Ryan, good friend of Jane Eagleson's, of course, at Origin Sports Group, which is London-based. You can see the +44 telephone number there, and I went online to see about the Origin Sports Group, and of course I knew about them from previous contacts. Origin Sports Group was founded. Remember Team Origin, which was the British America's Cup team name for a while before Ben Ainsley took over. Origin Sports Group was founded by Sir Keith Mills following his involvement in the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games as CEO of the Olympic Bid. So he was the head of the bid committee and vice chairman of the final organizing committee, London Olympic Committee Organizing Games, or whatever that was called, LOCOG. Sir Keith played an integral role in the execution of one of the greatest Olympic Games in history. As a result of this experience, Sir Keith has been involved in a number of elite sports projects and businesses over the last 2 decades and established himself as one of the leading investors and operators in the sports industry. So that's the power behind the throne. Sir Keith Mills, and obviously Grant Dalton went to him some time ago. This is the rest of his team. The CEO, that's Keith in the upper left corner. The CEO to his right on top. And that's Leslie Ryan down there on the lower left, obviously. And I don't know any of these folks, except I do know Sir Keith reasonably well, and I know Leslie very well.
I'd like to know why that Olympics was one of the best.
It was a good event. The world was in a good place then. They raised a lot of money. That they planned it properly. It was a terrific event.
And they lost a lot of money.
Well, what Olympic venue has not?
Los Angeles.
Well, except for '84. That's
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right. Julie, you're really up on all this. So that's it. That's the group.
I'm old.
And notice this. This is also telling, the final page of the document. There's the team. There's AC37. I guess that's a placeholder logo, and Origin Sports Group. No mention there, logo or otherwise, of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron.
Yes.
And, of course, they've got to deal with the deed of gift. And lawyers will tell you that a trustee, which is the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, cannot delegate its trusteeship. And to some, I'm not saying that this is what's happening here, but there are some who will say that's what has happened here. And if you think this is just going to fly down the road just like this, I wouldn't count your chickens before they hatch. We'll see.
Or at least make it clear.
Well, we'll see. It's very well done. I think you all agree it's a terrific document. I'll stop there because I can see we got a ton of comments here. That's our world exclusive. We've revealed the bid document. And where do we start, Julia?
I've not been reading, so I don't,
Gig, Julia, please tell Tom to stop wasting our time about a document which will not apply as ETNZ will not be defending. Gig, terrific.
Right.
I right now, I'll be very surprised if they don't defend. I still think they're the odds-on favorite. And if they have to plan, and by the way, the other two teams also have to plan what they're going to do. And I know that New York was planning in case American Magic was successful. Bill Wingrove, they must have studied things in the U.S. on how to do a shakedown. My mother saying, "Ho, Janice Davis, ho hum." Jonathan Frank, I left my heart in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
John Emmett, regatta on the Dead Sea. You cannot even touch your mast after sailing. You have no choice but sleep because it's so bloody hot. That's what he's saying. Now, what venues are we talking about? We keep going through your comments. Qatar, some people pronounce it Qatar, is said to be in the mix. Emirates Airlines, it's no surprise to any of you, is owned by Dubai, and Dubai, which is part of the UAE, United Arab Emirates, whether it's in Dubai or Bahrain or tell me where in that part of the world, whether in the UAE or otherwise, I think that's a distinct possibility. They've got a lot of money, petrodollars. They're trying to reformation of their economies away from petroleum-based economies to tourism and travel and luxury goods and so on. What better fit is there than the America's Cup? One also hears that Malta is in the mix and seriously interested.
That would be a good sailing venue.
Great sailing venue and great sailing tradition. And, of course, they had an America's Cup challenge. It didn't make it. Early on they did. And I also hear that Valencia, Spain is back in the mix, wants very much to have a shot at this, and it wouldn't surprise me if Portugal does as well. And I haven't talked to Patrick de Barros or anybody else from Portugal. And perhaps the UK, if the challenge of record is going to be Ineos Team UK, which if ETNZ wins, it certainly looks like to us it has for months that was going to be the case. And the more recent reporting, we can never tell if people listen to us and then they start going and then they write stories and put stuff up, or they're all talking. Of course, I don't put it all at our own feet. I'm not that that self-centered, although maybe close, Julia. But they do come on and listen and hear the one hears, and then they go build on from there. So we'll see where else. Wouldn't surprise me if it is in the UK. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell it'll be in the US because there aren't any cities, states, regions that have the wherewithal to do this. China, remember, they were building boats. They were going to have a Chinese part of this Youth America's Cup. China, could they pull something together and do it in Sanya or Qingdao or someplace? You bet. So we'll see. But now you know the document. Now you know a lot of things. Same boats, the time frame, no America's Cup World Series traveling circus. I think we've revealed a fair few things here. Julia, who else? Andrew Pindar would give the expression coming in hot a whole new meaning. I mean, the problem, of course, in doing all this, and they had to start planning this in this era of COVID when we're starting to hear about variants and whether they pulled the AstraZeneca vaccine out of South Africa because apparently it's not working that well. Its efficacy is not that great with the new South African variant. By the way, Julia, when's your second jab? It's this week, isn't it?
24th.
So a week from Wednesday. Is that right? A week from tomorrow? 9, 10, 17. Oh, no, you're on the 4-week program because you got the Moderna.
Moderna.
And I'm on the 3-week program because on Saturday I got the Pfizer.
Right.
All it did was your arm hurts was the only reaction I had. And it did. Your arm does hurt.
Mine didn't.
You didn't? Well, that's because I think mine gave the jab too high. You're supposed to give it 3 fingers down below that bone. And she gave it like 2 fingers down. I was, according to our nursing expertise. Our friends tell us that was not correct, but I digress. Who else? What else, Julia? Emmett saying, I wonder if Ineos is defending, then they would use the same document. Well, good. I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
Sure, who wouldn't? In fact, people will copy this.
Yeah.
Gareth Evans, it will be indoor yachting like Alex Thompson, but with powerful aircon. If it's in the Middle East, I think he means. Julia?
No.
Wingrove, it's what happens when money takes over. Parker, as I understand it, would be the city bidding. Yes, the city of the country. Yarvahe, they will host in Pompeii if they win. Greg Newman, hi, Greg, Father Greg. Do you get your bid fee back if ETNZ do not win the cup? I'm sure they've got some deal like that. If you have to put a deposit down and then they lose, they're going to refund that. They could not do that. Clark Chapin, I think that ETNZ would give them a version of the document in Microsoft Word so that they could use the global replace function. Jody Shields, breaking news, 2020 on America's Cup canceled. According to this document, Team New Zealand has already won it. Well, that's not fair. I mean, they have to do something like this. Now, they never want the team.
Excuse me.
You got to switch there, Julie.
Yeah.
She's got her
I was busy.
expensive cost. She's looking at her phone and her watch and her computer. You have to do this. But when you do it in the past, you keep it in secret so the team doesn't find out about it, that you're making such plans and preparations. You got a challenger record. You're drafting a protocol. But everybody knows you're doing this. And Team New Zealand is far too professional, too experienced, too good. Do you think Glenn Ashby and Pete and Blair and co are going to worry about this? They know this is going on. They're expecting that this is going on. So, and I hope Magnus Wheatley is watching, because some of the wild stuff he's written was a bit wild. But Magnus is good. There's no question. Julia loves him too, don't you?
I love his use of language.
You love more than that.
Well, that's all I know.
You like these young guys. Keith also owns IMOCA and AT Racing. Yeah, Yarvai. I'm not sure how well the IMOCA's doing. John Mangino, that's very interesting. Situation in Japan looking good. We will update on next week's Restart Sailing Show. Thanks, John Emmett. Please keep me posted, as he does, as you do. Bill Wingrove, Team Origin, and that ugly Juan K TP52, and bought one of EB's old IACC boats before that went down the tubes. Yeah, it is not fair. Ben is aging very well. Anyway.
Mark Thompson says Auckland giving up on hosting is cretonic.
It is, and I don't think they will. I think as I said on their it was in the paper. I guess it was in. I appear regularly on these various news outlets down there, and as the old fart that I am, this is a heads up. This is a more than that. It's, these guys are serious, and the business community and the yacht club and the political community in New Zealand, both in Auckland and in Wellington, have got to get their act together. And I don't blame Mr. Dalton one bit for trying to put some pressure on negotiating pressure on them, as every venue has done, except arguably New York Yacht Club, when they just said, we'll do it in Newport again, which worked, and they knew how to do it, and it was fantastic. And a lot of people pine.
Yes, for the old days.
For those days.
Yes.
Who else, Julia? David Lloyd, there's room for several AC bases just inside Portsmouth Harbor entrance on the old HMS Dolphin site, the Gosport site, with deep water. Yep. Karen Robertson, what would Tom do if you found out Andy Hunt had joined the Origin team? You know what, Karen, I wasn't going to say anything. Andy Hunt, as you all know, who was the non-sailing CEO of World Sailing, and whom Mr. Origin, that is Sir Keith Mills, had helped put Andy Hunt, who was the CEO of the organizing committee for the 2012 Olympics. He got cashiered along with his marketing director when a plan they had to raise money for the British Olympic team coming out of 2012, and that plan went down the gurgler. So he got cashiered, and Sir Keith recommended him to Joran Peterson. Joran Peterson hired Andy Hunt as the non-sailing CEO of World Sailing, and the rest of that, as you all know, is history. That didn't work out so well, and of course, we didn't think too much of Mr. Hunt, and his marketing director got cashiered even quicker than Mr. Hunt did. Tom, who is the likely COR if Prada wins this AC36? I'm not going to say. I have an idea, but I'm not going to say.
Ed Worley says that this is counter to the spirit of the deed of gift of the cup.
Well, as you all know, I quit as there were several factors, but I was not amused when the board, when our Commodore at Golden Gate let Larry and Russell move the event to Bermuda. I said, we can run it here, or we can't get a deal done here. We can run in San Diego or in Newport, Rhode Island, or in tell me where on the Gulf Coast. There could have been a lot of places. We could have run in Long Beach, fantastic event in Long Beach, but we didn't. And Larry Russell got $70 million out of Bermuda, plus or minus, give or take, and ran the event there. And the event was okay. It was just too expensive, and nobody could get there easily. Hamish Ross is talking about CNEV, the Club Náutico Español de Vela, which was the, Hamish knows, he had a hand in that, of creating that yacht club, and then it was the challenger of record for Mr. Ernesto Bertorelli and the SNG Society Nautique Genève after they won in 07. And that's when we, Golden Gate Yacht Club, Larry, myself, and Melinda Erklins and others challenged that, went to court, hired Russell, and then won that big trophy, which is depicted over there on our studio wall. And Hamish is making a joke, well, CNEV could be their challenger record for the Italians. I don't think so. Now, I have a pretty good idea who I think their challenger record is going to be, but let me not say that at this point, because it's not a solid one here. It's just a rumor. Julia.
Andrew Pendar says it's obviously a waste of time. It's coming to Scarborough.
Well, could, but I doubt it. I mean, if you got a lot of dough up there, Andrew.
And then Jonathan Frank said the decision is based on price, which is highly likely. You can count on it being in Mid-East oil nation waters.
Well, it's not only the money, but also the political control. You have to, if you're going to have this kind of a time frame, time scale, timetable, you have to have somebody who can say, spend that money, here we go. It's going to be $100 million, give or take, maybe more. And, spend the $100 million, tell the tourism authority under my jurisdiction, here we go. Yarvahe saying Malta is a joke, too much corruption. Yeah, they got some problems there right now. Jonathan Frank, any word from Long Beach? Again, Long Beach, they're all, the U.S. is not going to bid on this. Nobody's going to have the kind of money to put up. No corporate sponsor is going to do this. No. Yes, Malta did look at entering a team with Percy. John Emmett is saying yes, it was Percy. In fact, Ian Percy and Ian Murray and others. Hamish Ross was originally, we've seen some of the paperwork. Hamish, our good friend, was involved with that team. Nicolo Porzio. And that thing is still not sorted out, by the way. Who else? No, look at all the comments. What else, Julia?
Hamish said Spain invested a total of $3.23 billion U.S. dollars in Valencia.
Well, I think that's probably true. A lot of that was EU money. I think by the time they got EU money and they did the Turia, that's that river development and a lot of other things, still pining Michael Reyes. Andy Hunt, glug, glug, glug. You got to, if we say Andy Hunt, do you still have that rule going? You all got to take it reminds me, I may take a coffee to the late, great Andy Hunt. And if he's with McLaren right now, he was Ron Dennis in some deal out of my Pindar mug. But if for some reason Andy Hunt is involved in this, I guarantee you it'll be a Crutonic.
Senate just voted to proceed with the second impeachment trial.
Impeachment trial? Well, they didn't have any choice, did they?
Yeah. They could have said it was unconstitutional.
Let's don't talk about politics. People come on here to get away from politics, Julia. This is why we are staying in Lanzarote till February 20th, so we know where to go next, Emmett is saying. What happened? Stingray's asking if SailGP already booked all the sailing interests. Well, they haven't done that. There's lots of venues. And again, the Middle East. John in the Western apparently knows my brother Paul, says, why not Hukipa in Maui? And your favorite place in the world, Julia?
Yes.
Marcus Fentner, that would require some seaworthy ships to start with. Yeah, okay. Could the RNZ tell the team to go pound sand with their bid proposal? Well, what's their deal? I mean, there's some written agreement between the RNZ, as there always is, and their representative team. And, you don't know. Mark Thompson, is it just me, or has Daltz gone from being one of the good guys in the sport to a bit of a power / money grubber. Hope I am wrong. No wind, Paul Homchick, no wind in the Arab Gulf. Yeah, well, that's true. And, the Arab Gulf's not the most secure place. Please compare and contrast with the framework agreement. Extra points for predicting if this will fly, Jack Griffin. Well, Jack's referring to the agreement that Russell tried to get the teams to all agree to prior to Bermuda, saying that whoever wins, we will agree to do thus and such. And as you know, Jack, that agreement was quite different. It had a series of events and people hosting and people having joint control. It flew completely in the face of the deed. It was never going to fly. I said that early on. It was another of the reasons why I came apart with Russell and Larry and the yacht club. I said, you guys, the deed of gift is sacrosanct. I've been in court twice in my now aging years, once in '88 and once again with Hamish Ross, or Hamish on the other side, in the CNEV debacle of post-2007. And, of course, I won both. I and our team, but our side won both. But once is the defender and once is the challenger. And I just don't see that any court, if somebody does not, somebody has to go to court. Maybe no one will go to court and say, hey, this is not correct under the deed of gift. And if no one does, no one worries about it. The court isn't going to look for trouble. But if somebody sues and says, we're going to the Supreme Court, which is the trial court in New York, and then it goes up from there, who knows? Yes, Yarvahi, McLaren really hired at least Ron Dennis, who is still McLaren, not the car team. That's separate, the F1 team. Go ahead, Julia.
Stingray says, ask Larry Ellison to fund the venue of his private island in Ladai. It would be awesome.
Well, now see that could always race with the Somali pirates. Bill Wingrove, Kampalapo, Harbor, and Manali Bay are pretty small. Yeah, but that's a good point. There again, if you've got somebody with that kind of dough and that kind of authority, and Larry can say, okay, we'll do it here at my island in Hawaii, and I'll take care of the infrastructure, which he can do. Not quite, it's a big number, but he could do it there.
Yeah, that's rough sailing.
Well, but so what? Well, it is. It's a bit rough, but they can do it in the lee of the island. They could figure that out and modify the boats. But yeah, that's a good point, Julie. They're probably looking for light air, flat water-ish type venue, which, of course, the Middle East is. Okay, Steve Suchia, Clark Chapin, and then Steve. Clark is saying, well, back up to Alex Hayworth. Cuba, front runner. I doubt that, John Mangino. The Caribbean, though. The Caribbean is an interesting.
Oh, yes.
There are people who are very wealthy. Who was that? The guy who hung himself in jail, that Epstein. What was that guy's first name?
Yeah, I can't.
Was that Brian? His name wasn't Brian.
No.
That was the Beatles manager. Whatever that guy's name was. He's got an island down there. What was that? Was that Nacker?
Yeah, he and.
But and there are others. Who's the Brit? Come on, help me! I'm getting crotonic after an hour and 20 minutes in. The Brit who's Branson.
Branson, yeah.
Virgin, and he's got an island. He's the one that's got Nacker Island, right?
Yeah.
It's called Nacker. Yeah. And he could do something.
But
like
there's
that.
There's not enough infrastructure.
Exactly.
To do
That's
that.
exactly right. Hayworth, Alex saying, court will defend the deed until its dying day. I think you're right. Clark Chapin, Steve Suchia, I'm reminded of the comment I made after my first visit to the GM Desert Proving Ground. Now I know why they built the Desert Proving Ground here. That's where the desert is. Steve Suchia, the deed of gift ought to be amended to allow for races to be held in winter in the northern hemisphere. Plenty of wind in March in the Persian Gulf, and the weather is nice. Yeah, well, that's a point, too. And in this document, that's a good point. In the document we've just shown you, it does say, as does the deed, that if it's between November and April, it's in the southern hemisphere, or if it is in the southern hemisphere, those are the dates. And because that's what the deed specified. And the deed originally didn't specify southern hemisphere dates. It just said it will be between May and November. I think Steve would know. Hamish Ross will know. And the deed was amended fairly recently in fact, prior to Perth, prior to the 87 Cup, to allow it to be held in our northern hemisphere winter months, your summer Southern Hemisphere months. With that deed amendment. But Steve is right. It really doesn't matter if you want to race it someplace in the winter months. I think they could probably get around that. They'd go to court and get a quick amendment, and Hamish Ross would be in there immediately to do that for them. Zach Brown runs McLaren now, and he is Jonathan. That is the McLaren car team. That's the F1 team, but McLaren Industries or whatever it's called that Ron Dennis still owns and runs or has a big shareholding in. Jack Griffin, yes, RNZ, Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, could do that if they have the dollars. Golden rule applies. He who has the gold makes the rules. Exactly. Thanks, Jack. William Cook, Bill Cook, do it in the rough weather. Force them to build boats that are seaworthy because the whole exercise is a waste of time. Bill's he's a very bright naval architect. I've done a couple of America's Cup campaigns with him. You've talked to him.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
Billy the Cook, as we call him.
Yeah.
Annapolis. And he's been death against these boats. He thinks, as a number of you have said, any boat that can't sail in the same conditions that an Optimus dinghy can, the Opties, the kids are taught to sail from 3 to 30 and upwards to 3-meter seas.
Mm-hmm.
And why aren't, these boats able to do the same thing? Well, okay.
Actually, it is a very good question.
Venues are welcome to host the World Match Racing Tour events. James Pleasant, who's the executive director of the WMRT, yes, if they don't get the AC bid. Bill Wingrove, clear out Kihei Lagoon and race around the triangle. It will be, where's that? It must be in Hawaii as well, isn't it, Bill? Or is it down in Florida someplace?
Kihei's in Maui.
It is? Mm-hmm. Jeff did not hang it. Yeah, what was that guy? Yeah, Branson as Necker. All these bright guys. So, Sir Richard Branson. Thank you, Gordon Smith. CSS will be named the Ineos Cup. That's a good point, Daniel Gruen. Could be that could well be. Tell us about the 83 Victory 83 party. Sounds like quite a party. Anthony Payne is saying. Long story short, that was the British ball in Newport in 83. And in those days, each team put on a party for the other teams. And I mean, there were some epic parties. LV always put on a party as the Challenger record sponsor, Louis Vuitton. And then there was the America's Cup ball itself, which the Defender put on in the case of New York Yacht Club at one of the mansions on Bellevue Avenue. Down in, I tell you, there was a great America's Cup ball in Frio in Perth in a wool barn. It was hot and humid, but we drank way too much. It was a lot of fun. It was a good event. But the Victory Party in 1983, Newport, the Victory Ball was the best America's Cup party any of us have ever been to, full stop. And they brought in the Scottish Highlands bagpipers, and there were fireworks, and there was food from all over the world. And Peter DeSavary, PDS, put on a party in Newport, Rhode Island that was never equal, certainly never surpassed. PDS. What else? Tell us about. Yeah, that was. I won't go into the other details. Hamish Ross, yes, amended. The deed was amended in '85 to allow Southern Hemisphere summer for a match. Somebody saying, I forget the water passage between Maui and Lanai. Is it called Gage Roads? No, Gage Roads is off Frio, is off Fremantle between Rottnest Island and the coast. That's Gage Roads. That is technically the waters in which the 1986-7 America's Cup racing took place. Gage Roads. It was, I think, just G-A-G-E, Steve, from memory. Oh, yeah, Steve Gruber. There, he's got it. Yeah. Molokai Channel in Hawaii. Thank you, Steve. What a smart bunch on here. Heather Russum is watching. Heather is the esteemed executive director of the United States Sailing Hall of Fame, our Hall of Fame in this country, and she is a terrific, energetic leader of that organization. The chief of staff has recruited some great board members, has moved them now into the Armory, what used to be called the Armory building in Newport on Thames Street, Lower Thames Street. Steve Suchia, yes, Tom, you're correct. May to November is permitted time frame for the Northern Hemisphere. Yep. What does Jack G. think of my idea that the Royal Yacht Squadron would accept challenge from New York Yacht Club to race in the Solent if Ben wins in Auckland? I think that's a distinct possibility. I think if the squadron wins, New York might get back into this and do a traditional event. But doesn't sound like Ben and Sir Jim Ratcliffe want to do a traditional event. They want to do it, maintain these boats. They would not be doing this thing, this article we showed you earlier at the top of the show, in the Times of London if they didn't want to do that. Alex Hayward, it's not a real America's Cup without Australia. Yeah, I totally agree. John Mangino asking, finally, that's a good time to wrap this up. Agree, Hamish, there will be enough time to crank out the boats. Jeff Waller, when Peter DeSavary went home, we had a party on his huge yacht. That was the best party in 83, Jeff Waller is saying. Jeff, were you at the British Ball in Newport in 83? A good question. For Perth World Sailing 2011, we towed to Rottnest Island and then sailed downwind all the way back. Yeah, well, that would be in the Fremantle Doctor. Do you know why they call it the Doctor, Julia? The sea breeze off the west coast of Australia, off Perth, off Fremantle.
I can't remember.
It's because it's hot as hell in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's heats up and there's no wind. And then the air rises and it sucks the air in off the.
Yeah.
And that's why we started drinking. That's where we started drinking iced coffee, because it is too hot to drink hot coffee. Somebody said it's never too hot for hot coffee, red wine, or sex. And I disagree. In the morning,
All three.
in the morning in Fremantle, it's too hot for hot coffee. Maybe okay for red wine and sex. I don't know. Never tried red wine. We are now getting croutons.
Yes. We're not even sipping.
But that's where we learned to drink iced coffee. And now, of course, all the yuppies, all the millennials drink iced coffee here. All the gay boys, all the cool, sexy, trendy people here in this country do. But the Fremantle Doctor is so named because the sea breeze comes in and it goes from 0 to high
50.
20s. Well, not 50, but it goes into the 30s. And it brings midday relief from the heat and flies. Blows the flies away, the Fremantle Doctor. The doctor is in.
Yes.
Where that comes from. Tell me if I'm wrong, any of you Aussies. Jamie Hutchinson. Jamie, thank you for your nice note this morning. Richard Branson has Necker Island. Yes, Jeffrey, that was the guy's name. Brian Epstein was the Beatles manager, right? And Jeffrey Epstein estate has the Little St. John, and I do believe he also bought the island next to it for privacy. God, what a crouton. Fremantle for 37 would be awesome. Yeah, but again, I don't see a city in Australia coming up with the kind of money to compete with what probably the Middle East can do. I hate those flies, Steve Gruber says. Steve, did you ever have a hat with the corks?
I was just thinking of that. I still have my hat with
Did
corks.
you have one of those hats?
Sure.
You know what? I had one of those too. Didn't do a damn thing.
It didn't?
No.
But
It didn't. I didn't think it helped at all.
I was in New South Wales, though, and I didn't really need it there.
Well, I tell you, the flies are epic. But you put on a little spray and you do the the Aussie way. What a great country. John Mangino will just let that one fly. And yes, the cup needs the Aussies back. Yeah, I was actually imagining that if some of you will remember that if New York won, I was pretty sure there was going to be an Australian challenge in traditional boats back in Newport. But alas, that is not to be, so we shall see what happens. 100% nationality rule, please. Daniel Gruen is saying, Peter Harrison, is that the Peter Harrison? Welcome, sir. Peter Harrison, who backed an America's Cup challenge or two for the Brits, for the UK, in Auckland 2000, I think. And did he also do it in 2003? I can't remember. Aussie bug spray is the best, Jamie Hutchison is saying. Okay, we got to ask the question. This was our Is It Correct or Croutonic segment. In a word, this process and what's going on, is it correct for the Cup? Forget about the deed. Let's don't get into the technical legalities. Is what this is doing, is it correct for the Cup? That is to take it offshore, put it out to bid, and have the Cup leave Auckland. Presumably it'll leave Auckland, because I don't see how they're going to compete either with this kind of money. Is it correct? Or is it croutonic? Should it stay in Auckland and they should come to some kind of an agreement and the yacht club should maybe put their foot down and keep it in Auckland? It's as simple as that. Correct or croutonic? And you vote down below. We'll see those coming in. In the meantime, I'll move forward. Julie, you can keep You can keep an eye on the comments because
Okay.
they'll be about 20 seconds behind. Rick Hayes, the first to reply, saying it is Croutonic. Charlie Proenka. I hope I'm saying that now right, Charlie. Let's just hope New York Yacht Club stays. Yes, indeed. Let's hope New York stays involved. Correct. Ted Ryman's, he hopes it goes to Cape Town. Ted, could your government down there, could corporates get together and host it in Cape Town? Steve Suchia, but sadly, I think AC-75s would disintegrate on Gage roads. Yeah, they probably would. Jonathan Frank says Croutonic. Bill Wingrove says it was as correct as Bermuda was, which, as you all know, I didn't think was correct. I don't know what you really thought, Bill. What was the question? Is it correct or Croutonic? That is that the Cup leaves Auckland, basically, is what we're saying. A lot of, it's split.
Yeah.
There's Mirko Babini. Come stai? Hi, Tom. Anyone is thinking to have the AC37 AC in Italy, which percentage do you think will have LRPP to win the Old Mug? Mirko, if LRPP wins it and takes it to tell me where,
Oh, yes.
to Sicily or to Sardinia or to up at Porto, which is also in Sardinia, or Naples, or tell me where, it will be the biggest cup ever.
Yeah.
Full stop.
I'm looking forward to that.
Are you cheering for the
I
Italians?
am.
I thought we were supposed to be neutral hosting these
Oops.
watch parties.
Oops. Oops.
Okay, well, I'll cheer for the Brits, and you cheer for. Maybe that's why you have your Prada color on.
Yeah.
I didn't change the color behind me to any. I'm still neutral here, but maybe during the watch.
It's not. It's just that not because of the teams as much as the venue for the cup. I think it would be great fun to have the cup in Italy.
Exactly, and if they do it in Italy, it will be massive.
Mm-hmm.
Much bigger than if it's in the Middle East. Much bigger than, Newport, Rhode Island would be pretty good again. Well, Auckland was two of the best events in the modern era.
Yes, no question.
Everybody loved 87. 83, of course. Everybody loved 87 and the lead up to 83, the events in Newport. 87 was probably the high water mark. Most of the people that were on the fish show, the fish tribute the other day, would say so, I think. But the events in San Diego were good fun, lots of teams. The events in Auckland were good fun, lots of teams. The events in Valencia, good fun, lots of teams.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco here sadly, were not very many teams because of switching to those big, expensive multi-hulls that then became foiling. It was not intended that they would foil. Mangino votes for Italy. Daniel Grun, Jeff, I'm sickening to see Spithill or Barker racing for foreign teams.
Jeff Waller says if it goes away from the winner's country, the nationality rule should be dropped. Croutonic, CREW. And I agree. I think the nationality is a big part of what makes America's Cup interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all agree. It's better this time than it was. Italy would be insane, but I'm biased to Newport. Charlie Proenko, well, he's in Newport, in snowy Newport. He said at the top of the show, if I remember well. But maybe not as massive. Emmett's right, too. John is saying if it's in the UK, it would be massive as well. If it were in Plymouth, if it were out at Cowes. I mean, imagine if it were at Cowes. You talk about, I don't know how many of you on here were in Cowes in 2001, for what may have been the best yachting event in the modern history of the world. I mean, it was epic. The Jubilee, the so-called America's Cup Jubilee, was the 150th anniversary of the Cup, and there were J-boats and 12 meters and every other kind of a big boat under the sun. Anybody who was anybody in the Cup world was there, and it was a marvelous week, magnificent week at Cowes, Isle of Wight. Julia, what's the conclusion here?
Well, there are more Croutonics than anything else.
People want it to stay in Auckland, don't they?
Yeah. Bill
Wingrove makes a good point. You always have the most teams with a mature class rule. Emmett is saying Portsmouth. Did I say Plymouth? Sorry, I meant Portsmouth. I keep saying Plymouth because we did that AC World Series regatta out in Plymouth, which was terrific, and I still think of it because of the finish of the. He used to be Fastnet race, and now the finish of this new Lonely Rock race. Steve Atkins, there would be thousands of spectators on the water in Cowes. There would be indeed. I think you can't go wrong with any of these three. That is, if it stays in Auckland, we get through the COVID period, we can all go back down there, see the Cup, or if it's in the UK, or if it's in Italy, I think we'd be well served. I'm not happy about it, frankly, going to the Middle East. I think for a whole lot of reasons. You've got cultural problems, you've got discrimination problems, you've got I'm not wild about it. How will COVID economic impact affect those that can bid? Well, let's see. I mean, it's not clear that we're going to be doing anything anytime soon. We all think that life's going to start to get back to normal here. One can only knock on something that's wooden. Okay, let's press on, shall we? Murray Lamont saying, I was at the Cup Jubilee event 2001. You're right, Tom. It was an amazing event, and it was indeed, Murray. Thank you for that. Steve Atkins, you doing well with the COVID? Thank you for your note before the show. And Steve is continuing to investigate a couple of things. He says they're back Etchell sailing pretty soon in Connecticut. So he must be feeling better, feeling well. Thank you for your note earlier today. Stingray, Jeff Ogle, it depends what vaccine they get. Sputnik. Okay. The Olympics. Shall we move on to the Olympics? We promised you a quick update. There's not a whole lot of news. John Emmett probably knows more about what's going on than any of us, but you probably have read about this poor chairman, this guy who's, poor. He's not poor, but the guy made a horrible mistake. The postponed Tokyo, this is the Associated Press today. Postponed Tokyo Olympics have yet another problem besides the pandemic. This time it's Yoshiro Mori, the president of the host, the Japan. It's not the local, it's the Tokyo Organizing Committee. It's a big deal. He's a former PM. Mori made derogatory comments about women almost a week ago in a meeting of the Japanese Olympic Committee. He essentially said they talk too much, driven by a, quote, strong sense of rivalry. Is that true, Julia?
I don't think so.
Having women on boards and then women on committees, and they talk too much. Julia certainly doesn't talk too much here. I try to get her to talk more, in fact, but she's too polite. The article continues. The 83-year-old, last paragraph, former prime minister was forced to apologize, but calls for his resignation persist. They seem to grow daily, cutting into weakening support for the Olympics and raising questions why elderly men dominate politics and boardrooms in Japan. Mm-hmm. And, of course, there's already 80%, give or take. The numbers we keep saying, 80% of the Japanese population either wants the event postponed again, which ain't going to happen. It's either going to happen this year or it's not, at least in Japan, or they want it canceled. And apparently it's 65% of the people.
John Emmett says China will be pretty closed for the next 18 months or more.
China. Yeah, I think China's got problems too with the COVID, and they just don't admit it. Well, that was the AP. And then Inside the Games, our favorite website for insider information about the Olympic Games, insidethegames.biz, I think is the URL. I commend it to you. It's free. Tokyo 2020 planned meeting to discuss Mori's sexist remarks as 390 volunteers quit over his comments. Apparently more than that. Members of the Tokyo 2020 executive board are to meet to discuss the sexist remarks made by Yoshiro Mori after a bunch of volunteers resigned. So according to the Kyoto News, whom we've quoted on this show a number of times, Tokyo 2020 is planning an extraordinary executive board meeting to discuss its response to the comments now branded, quote, deeply inappropriate by the IOC. They kind of, at the first time around, the IOC said, well, we accept his apology. I'm sure he didn't mean it. Public anger has grown after Mori suggested he thought women spoke too much. Okay, we don't need to beat this dead horse. So the Olympics is still, at least in the public mind there in Japan, is not, it's got problems. Let's see. We hope for the sake of the athletes it goes on. And if it doesn't go on, that the governing bodies will plan something good, cool, to replace it, because you don't want to repeat, as we always say on here, of 1980 and, for that matter, 1984. Julia, questions and comments before we press on?
No.
John Emmett saying, did you listen to his apology? No, John, give us a comment. Give us in a nutshell what his apology was. Was it kind of a not very full and frank apology? What was it?
John Mangino. Jonathan Frank and John Mangino. If it goes to the Persian Gulf, it'll be like joining AA.
Joining AA, yeah, because you can't drink or some things. I didn't listen to his apology, John Emmett. But Jack Griffin, police, stop using the word traditional. When I hear that I find and replace what I like instead of traditional. I say what has been practiced. No, traditional. Sorry, Jack. Don't. You sound like you're woke or something. Like you're an American living in Switzerland. I know you're a global international guy, but it is the tradition. It's what has gone on up until fairly recently. So it is traditional. Now, I'm not saying traditional is right. Emmett is saying in his apology statement, you want to read that?
Yeah. In his apology statement, he said he didn't listen to women very much anyway.
So why does it matter if they talk too much at a meeting if he doesn't listen to
That's
them?
right.
What a crouton. If we were doing a Crouton of the Day award, he might get that.
Well,
He would get it.
right.
This model of huge cost for the host port for the America's Cup is going down the path of the issues that plague the Olympics. Yeah, Gareth Evans, did you pin that comment? I was on one of the mark boats for the AC World Series in Plymouth, the one I keep confusing with Portsmouth. Portsmouth, of course, is where Ben Ainsley's and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's amazing team base, that beautiful palace that they built in Portsmouth on the southeast corner of the UK, over east of Southampton and so on. Plymouth is out to the west, and we had a terrific, it was a windy, people capsized, we were up there. What's it called? The Hoe? What's that big high spot in Plymouth looking down? It's called the Hoe. There are a lot of jokes about that, but the Plymouth Hoe, and it was a magnificent spot for a regatta, the World Series regatta.
Ed Worley said the model of huge costs for the host port of the America's Cup is going down the path of the issues that plague the Olympics.
I just read that a minute ago while you were strumming through the other comments, and I think that's right. I think, our sport, I don't see, and by the way, these eSport, I just see the big eSport outfit folded up in I think in Denmark. Mm-hmm. And this eSports thing is a flash in the pan. It's hula hooping. Same thing with trying to make the America's Cup into a mega event like the Olympics, and the Olympics is struggling, as you just said there. Who said that, Gareth? Somebody said that. Was a good comment.
I actually have never understood why all Olympics don't do what LA did, and that is use existing facilities.
For two reasons. One is that existing facilities don't exist the way they do in LA and a few other cities. They just simply don't have two big universities with dorm rooms and all those stadia.
But there are a lot of cities
there
that
are,
do.
but that's what was my point one. Point two is that they try to use the Olympics as an excuse. Remember, LA rebuilt the airport in '84, leading up to it, and they try to
and
use
Athens really had a hit.
And they use it as an excuse to build facilities,
Yeah.
and they on the theory that if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what happened to all those facilities in Athens that are falling into disuse. The facilities there's no legacy in Rio. And of course, part of it's just the sheer economics. Montreal was just still paying for Montreal was 1976. They're still paying those bonds that they floated for the public to stage that. But you're right. Peter Uberroth did a magnificent job and his team in L.A. in '84.
But
And that's the beauty of Newport, Rhode Island for hosting the Cup, or a Cows even. There's a lot of facilities exist. Can you create a village? No, probably not. You got to spread them around the waterfront, but we'll see. Okay, let's wrap this segment up, shall we?
Yes.
Jack Griffin, give him the last comment here. The yacht club should put its foot down? ? Are you kidding? How much money does the yacht club have in its shoe? Need a heavier shoe. So Jack's all in favor of this thing being shopped around. He's a former hospitality manager for Alinghi when we first met. He's a very bright guy, and he probably would like to get involved back in the event in that capacity as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Clark Chapin says, in my humble opinion, the Olympics are not a sporting event. They're a TV event that happens to give out sporting medals.
It's really the way it's become.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Brian Johnson. Like Heathrow. They should hold the Olympics in Greece every day. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's not solve the Olympic problems. If you're just joining us, we're an hour and 50 minutes into what is our normal TFE Live, our regular Tuesday and Friday shows at 1300 Pacific. This time of year, 2100. Oh, we're about to go through that madness again, where we go on daylight time, and they're still not on daylight time in Europe and yada, but we'll keep you posted. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wrap this one up. We do have a Bravo Zulu now. And to whom? Boris Herman, whom we've been following in the Vendée Globe, and he was doing really well, and he helped with the rescue. He was getting a little bit of time, and then, as you know, just before the finish, he ran into that Spanish, it was a Basque fishing boat, and sadly, he didn't get onto the podium, and it looked like there was going to be the first non-French sailor to ever get on the podium, maybe even win it, but German skipper Boris Herman, who finished in 5th place in the Vendée Globe on Sea Explorer Yacht Club de Monaco, has won the 2018-21 IMOCA Globe Series. Now, I didn't even know this series existed, but I'm not surprised. They add up the results of the various champions. The championship is calculated by accumulating the scores of skippers and their teams of the major IMOCA classes, the 60-foot class races, among them the Vendée, the Route de Rome, the Transat Jacques Vabre, and the Bermuda 1000. Oh, and the Vendée Arctique. Herman, age 39 from Hamburg, but now based in Lorient in France, entered all of those races and completed every one. That is a minor achievement, if not a major achievement in and of itself. He came out at the head of the championship with Vendée Globe winner Yannick Bestaven. I heard it pronounced Bestaven. We've been pronouncing it wrong, I think, on his metric Coke 4. Metric Coke 4 was second, and Vendée Globe runner-up and line honors winner Charlie Dallin on a PV was third. Herman is already planning to acquire or build a new boat for the next Vendée Globe and is looking forward to another full program of IMOCA racing in the next few years. Quote, certainly we stay in the IMOCA class for sure, he said. Quote, we will try to get the best boat we can get our hands on or build, and hopefully we can race this year with the new owner of our current boat. Now, skip ahead. Well, I don't even skip ahead. And he revealed that he had a phone conversation with the captain of the Spanish fishing trawler that he collided with in the darkness in the closing stages of his Vendée Globe. Steve Atkins, I hope you're listening to this. Steve's still trying to figure out what happened. He's talked to a couple of offshore sailing friends of ours, racing denizens. We, quote, we got on very well, he's saying, of talking to this captain of the Spanish fishing vessel. Quote, we are both working at sea, so we are kind of colleagues. I apologize for giving them a stressful moment, and they were really deeply sorry for what happened. They follow the Vendée Globe. The captain is a Vendée Globe fan, and they were really devastated that we lost places because of it, and they were worried about me. They are good people.
Oh, that's nice to know.
Wasn't that nice?
Yes.
Wasn't that really nice?
Very nice.
Bravo Zulu to Boris Herman from Germany. Hamburg originally, now lives in Lorient, of course, and representing the Yacht Club de Monaco and Sea Explorer, one of his sponsors, main sponsor. Bravo Zulu. Okay, any other final comments, Julie, before we wrap this one up?
No,
we're not even 2 hours in. This is a short show after that.
We're
3 hour show we did the other day.
We're missing by 5 minutes. No, there are lots of good comments as usual, and I love them all.
Okay. Yes, yay, Boris. Steve Atkins saying, yay, Boris, terrific ambassador to the sport. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm about to line up a good song, Stingray says. Pick up the Gibson and groove to get back to where you once belonged. Remember that?
Yes.
JoJo was, remember that? The
Yeah.
Beatles? Back in the USSR?
Yeah.
Okay, someday we'll sing. We'll do a sing-along on this show.
Yes.
Thanks, Stingray. I was on one of the, we said that we definitely need a normal Friday show. Yeah, we're going to do a Friday, a quickie, before we then do the, watch party Friday evening for the hopefully first two races of the Prada Cup Finals. Mm-hmm. And this segment.
Oh, there's our friend.
There's our friend. I got to put him up here on the screen, Julie, between us. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I love this song. We played this in my little band, our garage band in junior high school. Okay, enough of that. You sent this to me, didn't you, Julie? Why isn't COVID, they're obviously talking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why isn't COVID affecting you people? These are Amish, right? In Pennsylvania or something. We don't have a TV. Which, you know, if you didn't have TV, you didn't know about all this stuff, and you heard from your local doc, hey, you ought to maybe steer clear of this, and it's a bad flu or bad flu season.
Yeah.
You wouldn't probably get as wound up as we are. Now, this came from Stephen Frederick this morning. I put it on my Facebook page. Those who think that a COVID vaccine will modify their DNA, now think about it. Those who think that a COVID vaccine will modify their DNA should look at it as an opportunity.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
This is an oldie but goodie, and it just put me in a good mood when I saw it, so I ran it. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The sailor, this reminds me of Steve Atkins. The sailor switches to a number 3, adds some vang, adjusts the backstay, and calls for weight up on the rail, and contemplates which spinnaker to fly on the next downwind leg. Right?
Right.
No, nice, really nice. And then follow this, Jack. I dedicate this to you, Jack Griffin. And I don't have the word traditional in here, but I'm going to work it in somehow. The America's Cup is no longer what the tradition that it once was. Yeah, the old codger, which is me, I guess, and maybe I wouldn't say to you, Julia.
Oh, sure.
Says me neither.
No question.
Oh, goodness me. Okay, back in the USSR. Awesome rhythms. Thanks again for the Today in History. This is about Ed Sullivan and the Beatles. This is about all of you, our FOSI, whom we deeply appreciate you joining us again today for this, our show number 382. Up there toward 400. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes. Please like, follow, and share. You've been doing really well.
The sharing's been, we had over 50, I think 5 shares on that show on Friday.
Yeah, that's
You
good.
know what the hardest thing about doing a 2-hour show? Everybody says, how do you guys last? Don't you take a break, go take it? That's not the problem. The problem is I want to touch my nose. I want to scratch, and you have to not do that, or you look like a crouton if you're sitting here.
Yeah.
Please share your comments. Please include your comments. What's that Bill Cook saying? I won't look at it. Remember, comments are welcome. Even in replay, we leave them open. And if you want to become a patron via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, you all know the drill. We need the help. We need to be able to pay the phone bills and the light bills, the heat and light bills, right, Julia?
Right.
In fact, I got to pay the internet bill before Friday night, or we won't be on the air.
I think that's a very good idea. Mine.
Go ahead.
Mine's been not correct lately.
Your internet.
Yeah.
That's because I think you leave and go upstairs. You go back upstairs, and your internet, your stuff is still on the downstairs Wi-Fi down here.
Yeah.
I'm going to wire you hardwired up there.
Wow.
We will do a regular Friday show, TFE Live at 1300 Pacific, 2100 UTC, 10 in the morning Saturday in Auckland, 8 in the morning in Sydney Saturday morning, because I think there's going to be more news, probably some reaction to this show. But we will do a quick, probably not a 2-hour show, a shorter show, famous last words. And then we'll start our watch parties Friday night and then Saturday night, and then we're off until Tuesday night, our times, which is Saturday, Sunday in New Zealand, and then Wednesday in New Zealand. Thanks, Jack Griffin, again for sorting that out for us. Watch party, Prada Cup Finals, 1845 Pacific, 0245 UTC, 0345 CET. And the racing starts at, it gives us about a half an hour to do a pre-race show. And then forget about that last little line. That is not accurate, because it doesn't continue every day. It goes Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, and then the following, I guess, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 2 races per day scheduled. Julie, anything else?
No. I think not.
Rick Rundle, shorten it up. Which one? The shows in general? Now, Rick, you know what? You can always go on and watch it and replay. And if we shorten it up, people complain. If we lengthen it, we get more views. Thanks, Julie and Tom, Alan Long. Thank you, all of you. Yeah, the shies will hit the fan. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you for our regular show Friday and then the watch party Friday night. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week and stay safe. go sailing. Right, Julia?
Absolutely.
Ciao. Bye.